see if we're good. Are we live? I don't think it's live. Check yours.
Hello?
No, nothing there. See if we can get hold of Ryan. Oh, now it's okay. Ryan just said we're good to go. Okay. Hello. That's not working. Ryan, it's not working. Is this mic working? I don't think so.
Hello? Hello? Nope.
I'm gonna give a clue. Okay, nothing. Oh, that sounds like something. Are we good? Oh, look at this. We're live from New York.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. Let's see, make sure I get the date right. This is Monday, December 5th. This is Development Government Relations Subcommittee to Holyoke City Council. And with me on the committee is Councilor Mike Sullivan, Councilor Nelson Roman. Councilor Tallman advised me he's running a little bit late, and I'm sure Councilor McGivern will be here in momentarily. With us also Councilor Bacon, Ward 5 Councilor. If I could get a motion to open up the public hearing, that would be great.
Motion to, for item number 2?
Number 2, yeah.
Take up item number 2 and open the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor, open the public hearing?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing. This is a notice of public hearing for application for a home occupation permit for Daniel. We're getting joined by Councilor McGivern. Daniel Boissonalt? No, that's not right. Boissonalt?
Good French name.
Boissonalt. 267 Southampton Road. Permit would allow applicant to produce crackers and non-dairy nut-based cheeses. Okay. Daniel? Okay. Why don't you step up to that microphone? And so welcome to the, see if touch the mic, see if it's on. Oh, that's good to go.
It's good to go.
You can take the mic off if you want to hold it like you're the MC, or if you,
Okay.
but be sure to speak directly into the microphone, okay?
Sure thing.
Because the meeting's recorded, so just kind of hold it right up to your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you tell us what's happening?
Well, I have a very, very small company that I'm producing these products out of right now. They're raw products made from nuts in the case of the dairy cheeses, or the non-dairy cheeses, and seeds in the case of the raw crackers. Recently, we've been looking around for a different space to use because the space that I'm in right now is just not working out so well for us as far as what we need, what we're paying for. In the meantime, my father passed away in April.
Oh, my condolences.
And the house up there is being occupied just by my mother, and she could use some help as far as financial means goes. And there's a big space down in the lower part of the house that is usable for that. My father had a workshop there, which I cleaned out and basically just remodeled to use for that. The kitchen itself is really not the type of kitchen you'd see in a regular production type of space, because we don't use stoves, we don't use ovens, we don't use fryolators. Basically, it's just stainless steel tables, some refrigerators, and a sink, and some dehydrators to make the crackers in. So this room just works out really well for us in both, because of that, because of the specialized work that we do, and because it's just financially it works best for the small company. So my plan is to be up there for a year or two grow the business a little bit more so that we have production and distribution to more areas throughout New England, mostly here in Western Mass and Eastern Mass. Right now that's what we do. And once that is, we're not able to do that type of production in that small space, we'll look for something else around the area, hopefully here in Holyoke, because it's an affordable area. Right now I'm in Boston and the rents are just just out of control. For me to rent an 800 square foot room out there is like $3,000 a month. So economically it works for this company at this time to do something here, sort of incubate in that small space, move out into a bigger space in the next couple of years. So we're hoping we can get this permit, just enable us to do that.
And who's working for the company?
Just me, and I have some family members to help me out, but right now it's just myself that does everything.
And so you bake the product, or what do you?
No, the crackers, and I have some samples here if you guys would like some, and you can see what they're like. In fact,
Yeah, is it under $50? Because we're under very, very
it's
tight,
well below $50.
very tight governmental restrictions around here. Very, very cumbersome. 268A. We don't want
I
to.
think we added, the cost of it. Can I step in here?
Yeah, why not?
So these are the crackers. We've got 3 different flavors. They do not get baked in an oven. They actually get dehydrated in dehydrators. The dehydrators are just like small boxes that plug into the wall. They're sort of like basically like a hair dryer inside of a box that just blows the air around until they get dry. So they take about 24 hours from start to finish. And then these are the cheeses. There's a couple samples of the different types.
Now, what do you do the same thing with these? This is all
So
dehydrated?
Those don't get cooked at all.
Okay.
They don't go inside any dehydrator. Basically, those get mixed inside of a. Microphone again. Cheeses get mixed in basically food processors, and then they go into a bin where they culture inside of refrigeration. So they culture in the refrigeration for a couple of days, and then they get mixed up into different flavors. So there's no heating whatsoever with any of that. We don't. It's basically raw food. It's just nuts, really.
So on the back it says manufactured by Dan's Power Plant of Malden.
Yeah, that's where we do our work now. And the space that I have there is about the size of your table. Actually, it's smaller than that.
Okay.
So, I'm selling a fair amount of stuff now that space is not working for me anymore. It's not big enough.
So is this your full-time profession, may I ask?
Right now, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what I do.
All right.
I'm not making any money. Let's be clear. There's no money being made. When you do food manufacturing, it takes a good 5 years before you are able to start, making some money. Basically, if you're breaking even for the first 5 years, you're doing okay. So we're still not quite there yet. But if we bring this production into that space there, it's going to lower our costs considerably and allow me to, step up to the next level and move up to the next level.
And just my last question, how do you get it out to market?
Right now, I do my own distribution, which means it goes into my car and I drive around to the stores and deliver it to them myself.
Oh, okay. Is it just a sedan, or is it a box truck?
It's just a minivan. It's
Minivan.
just my personal minivan.
So it's not through the mails. It's
No mail. No, we can do some mail order for the crackers. If someone were to order anything from me online, I would just take it down to the post office and ship it to them, or bring it to FedEx or somewhere like that. But I don't have anybody coming to the house or to the business that I use now to do any of that. It's basically I just do the production, load it up, take it where it needs to go. Once we get to a certain level where the distribution may become too much for me to do by myself, I'll still take everything, but it'll just go to a distributor. So I would load up my minivan, take whatever product, bring it to them. They store it in their location, and then they do the distribution. So there's no one coming to the house. There's no customers coming there. There's no vendors coming to see me there. In fact, I pick up most of the product myself and bring it into the kitchen to
Noise?
to make myself. No. No, it's all inside the house. It's all,
So there's no traffic, no car traffic, no foot traffic,
no.
no noise other
No.
than like it being in a house?
It's literally, you would not notice any difference at all in the house. There's no outside work being done. And because the food is all raw, and we don't use, it's all vegan, so there's no it's all plant-based. There's no animal product in it. Any waste is just composted. So,
Okay, thank you. Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, thank you. Have you talked to the Board of Health about any rules or restrictions as far as the storage of raw materials or finished product?
well, the state of Massachusetts will have to come in and inspect the kitchen. And that process will take place once the special permit is given to us. So nothing really can be done there until they give me the permit to do it, and they will check all of that. I did have the health inspector from Holyoke come in and see the space that we're using, and he basically advised me to go in this direction, apply for the special permit, and he said that, he had no issues with the kitchen as it was now. Now, if it just has to be understood, when I say raw food, we're not using animal product. So it's sort of like when you buy a bag of nuts. Those are raw. They can be stored inside of a room temperature for, months on end, as long as they're sealed in proper containers. The only thing that we need the refrigeration for are the cheeses, because they have water content in them, and you wouldn't want to leave them out at room temperature. Once the water is added to them, they do need to be cooled. So they stay in the refrigerator that I have. I have some freezers that I use, and we just freeze it all. And when it goes out, it gets thawed out and sent out to the customers like that.
So as I understand it, regardless of the issue of a special permit, you'd still be subject to any local or state
Yes.
health and sanitary regulations?
Yeah.
Well, Counselor, you can add that as a condition to the special permit. So, any other counselors? Questions? Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. I would just like to speak in support of this. I think it's he's creating a self-incubator to get his business going. And I think once he gets to a certain size, he won't overextend in the residential area, and that sounds like a reasonable plan.
Thank you, Counselor Bacon. Counselor McGivern?
Thank you, Counselor. Dan, I think or I think what you understand is the Board of Health sent you to us to deal with the zoning. This is a residential zone. And
Yes.
the home occupation permit allows for non-intrusive, as you have portrayed, incubator, as Counselor Bacon has said, type of operation, which generally people get to do out of their homes, and if we don't know, it's no harm, no foul. But you don't get tax breaks, distribution's a problem, and eventually, if you grow too much, it doesn't work.
Yes.
You said your mother lives at this address.
Mm-hmm.
Do you live at this address?
I do when I'm there. I would be there when I'm working, but I actually own the property with my siblings.
I understand, but home, it's an owner occupation permit,
Yes.
so this needs to be your residential address, I believe.
Okay. Well, it's a part-time residence at this point.
How part-time?
I'd say half the month at this point. When you're doing
51%?
I'm sorry?
Would you say 51% of the month?
Yes. Yeah, while doing production, it would be 51% of the time. So, when if I'm there doing the production, we're talking about, at least 15, 16 days out of the month.
No deliveries whatsoever?
None.
No signs?
No signs.
No customers?
No customers. No.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And those are possible conditions too that we can we can impose on a special permit as well. It sounds like they might be imposed. Counselor Nelson Roman?
I'm going to vote in favor of this. I think it's a good plan. I just had a few questions. What year did you start the business?
Well, it started last year in early 2015. Mostly I did farmers markets for the whole year of 2015. And then this year I started to do retail sales. So, and at this point, we're up to about 12 customers as far as retail customers go. We do have it located in River Valley Co-op in Northampton, where it does quite well, as well as Cornucopia, which is also in Northampton.
Okay, and then my second question is, again, this is a follow-up on the employment side. So you said it's currently just yourself, single owner, employer model right now, which is great. So in your model of a year to 2 years, you plan on expanding. So is your staff going to be your family, and or are you planning on hiring a staff member too? Because
Well, I know the rule of the special permit is one person outside of the family. So that is a rule that we would stick to. And, I do have family members that can help me, but it's a pretty self-sufficient business as far as you don't need to have a whole lot of staff to do it. What happens is, because these products are raw, like I said, the crackers take 24 hours to produce. It's sort of, once it's set in motion, it just kind of goes on its own. And then you come in and, do a little bit of packaging and that sort of thing. So it doesn't really require a huge amount of people to do. Once we grow out of that space, then yeah, we'll need more employees to do that. And that's the plan. I mean, it's not the kind of room that you would have a lot of people in anyway. It's just not that there's not enough space for that.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, the only red flag I think we heard so far is the residency thing. So that we've got, we've got to, and believe it or not, we have another applicant for a whole other issue that's, this person's kind of having to deal with the same thing. And this person wants to have a business in a house, but it's a really open question as to where this person resides. So that's why it's, home occupation. So I would say, I don't want to, I don't want to make light of it, and I don't want to dance around it too much, but I mean, I don't, it's not going to be an agent that comes in, knocks on your door to ensure you're there, but there's going to, it's something that has to be seriously considered, okay? The way you establish residency generally is, your mail gets there and you vote.
Exactly,
I mean, those are a couple of little evidentiary things, but
Right.
be that as it may. Okay, well, we are, anything else, any concluding remarks?
Well, I just hope that we can make this work so that we can do business in Holyoke. My whole plan is to be able to, I was born in this city and I want to see the city succeed. And I'm hoping that my business will grow enough so that I can take it down into somewhere into the city, into a much bigger facility, and actually have a real business here. So, I mean, that's the whole plan. And, I don't want to go into more details about what plans are as far as what I may or may not do with that house at 267, but there is some considerations as far as who's going to purchase it, what we're going to do with it, and further down the road. But it's not really something I want to go deep into here on the record.
Fine.
We could talk about it maybe off the record, but
Fine. You can always talk to, the counselor, the Ward
Yeah.
5 counselor. So,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you, Dan. Okay, we are in a public hearing. Do we have anyone from the public, you can grab a seat. Anyone from the public wants to speak in favor of this? Step up to the mic, identify yourself, name, address.
Peter Dellert, 174 Sergeant Street.
Well, just slow that down. Peter, I got the Peter.
Peter Dellert,
Dellard, okay. Go ahead, Peter.
174
Go ahead, Peter.
Sergeant Street, corner of Beach and Sergeant. Anything Holyoke can do to bring small businesses to this town, or this city, I would support highly. Give the guy a break.
Great, thank you, Peter. I did have an email from an abutter who wrote in favor. This is Ann Cloutier of 11 Labrie Lane, and we'll add this to the record as well. She says she abuts 267 Southampton Road, doesn't feel this will impact her negatively, and she writes this email in support. Okay, is there anyone who would like to speak against this special permit? Okay, hearing none, is there any other comments from the committee at this point before we close, or motion to close? Okay, can I get a motion, please?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The public hearing is now closed. We can no longer accept any other crackers or cheeses or anything of those of that sort. So you've heard the testimony. What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Motion to approve the special permit?
Second?
Okay, okay,
With
so we have,
conditions.
that's what I thought. Motion to approve with, is that amended motion, Counselor?
Motion to approve the special permit. With condition.
Okay, such as?
All those listed by Counselor McGivern.
No signage.
Okay, no signage.
Dan, no delivery is okay, right? No delivery? Okay.
No deliveries. I would suggest that we condition this on the applicant obtaining the necessary permits from the health.
Board of Health, right?
Is that appropriate?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't have their authority, believe me, local or state.
The only thing I would say to that is they may say to me, documentation that this is for the egg thing.
Well, so let's,
We're not going to go out there and look at this space.
You'll have our certified vote and the permit. It just won't kick in until they say, okay.
Yeah, that's because I think sort of like that's where the vague thing
Yeah.
is. They know that City of Holyoke doesn't do risk applications. Not going to come out for an inspection. My answer is going to be it's a special permit.
okay,
Said
so,
no customers at the house, right, for the retail, so, no customers.
okay, so no signage, no deliveries, I mean, how do you say that? No customers, how do you say?
Well, my customers are retail.
Okay, so, all right, so no walk-in customers.
There you go.
Okay. All right, so we'll say no walk-in customers. Okay, so with those in mind, anything else, gentlemen? Okay, so the motion is to approve with those conditions. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, so we'll recommend this to the full city council, which meets tomorrow night.
And they will have questions for that as well.
I doubt it. Nothing we can't handle. Okay, so if you're more than welcome to come and observe how civic government works. It's exciting. So, or not, you can watch on Channel 15 at home. And we're now joined by Councilor Tallman. Okay, Daniel? All right, thank you. I thank you.
Luck.
Good luck. Yeah, before we go on to the next item, I'm just going to use a point of privilege. If we could just take a moment of 15 seconds, a moment of silence. One of our colleagues, former colleagues, the Honorable Fran Rogers, and a state rep, his son Michael died, and on Sunday night. So I would just ask the committee to beg my indulgence and for just a brief moment of silence for Mr. Rogers. Okay, please, thank you. Counselor? Counselor? Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay, if we could go on to agenda item number 3, and that is, I would take a motion to open the public hearing for that.
Motion to open the public hearing for item number 3.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing is now open. This is a special permit for East Hampton Savings Bank. Wow, our good friends at East Hampton Savings. Boy, we had them in about 18 years ago when we sold that parcel for a commercial drive-up at 170 Sargent Street. Look at this. Here come the guys from East Hampton Savings Bank with a map and footings and all sorts of great stuff. So, Well, you don't need that. You can use a microphone at one of the desks.
Okay.
So, and you can walk around. If you need to walk around, you can just carry that around. So, Jim, why don't you just identify yourselves, and we'll go from there.
All right. My name is Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys, representing East Hampton Savings.
And
Greg-
Greg Rosen from NES Group, project architect and consultant.
Okay, just Eric Rosen?
Greg Rosen.
Greg Cheapers. I'm sorry, Greg Rosen. And again, you're with Greg?
NES Group.
Okay, Mark Reed, Greg Rosen. Mark,
So,
take it away.
we are representing East Hampton Savings Bank that would like to construct a new branch bank on Sargent, at the intersection of Sargent, Pine, and and Beach. The CVS is located to the south. This is a vacant piece of property that the city owns, and the bank is under contract to purchase it from the city. The purpose of tonight's meeting is for the request for a special permit for a drive-up lane and access for the bank. The access to the property is off of Sargent Street. The entrance, there will be one entrance into the property, coming in off of Sargent Street, wrapping around the bank to the drive-up kiosks and windows that are located on the easterly side or the Pine Street side of the bank itself, so that the site design lends itself for stacking of vehicles. So if you have more than
Okay, well, first of all, the Pine Street side that's the southerly side, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of north is this way. I refer to south being here, east, west,
Okay,
north. It's kind of almost at a 45
all right.
degree angle to it.
We'll roll with that.
This is the north.
So the Pine Street side, yeah,
Pine
all
Street
right,
side.
we all get it.
I'll refer to it as Pine Street side.
Yeah, if you would.
So that there will be typical with any bank, there's a ATM machine associated with, on the side, the Pine Street side of the bank, as well as a teller window that is abutting the bank, and then another drive-through lane, a second lane, which has the pneumatic equipment that brings your transactions back into the bank and back out for the project.
So you come in off of Sargent Street, you take a right onto the property, you kind of circle around like you're heading in the direction of Beach Street, you circle around the bank, and then you come out and you finally get to the ATM and the drive-through windows on the Pine Street side.
Correct, and you do
All right.
banking here, and then you would exit back out to Sargent.
Back up, so there's no exit or entrance on any other thoroughfare other than Sargent Street?
Correct. There's an existing driveway currently here, but there's no other entrances other than the one off of Sargent Street
All right,
for the site itself. The bank its size is about 26 to 2,800 square feet. 28?
Oh, 2,880 square feet after the small adjustments, sir.
Yes.
About
Gotta- gotta turn it on,
2,880
too.
square feet. Yes, it is.
Okay, lights on, thanks, Greg. 2,880 square feet, thanks, Greg.
So this is a rendering of the bank looking, if you
Oh,
were
wow.
standing at the intersection
That looks very nice.
of Sargent.
Who came up with that idea?
We try to respect the surrounding areas, but
Have you
yet
done that
giving it a
before?
little
Have
bit,
you
yeah,
designed a bank before?
that's all we do, and give it some identity, and we felt
It's nice.
we've created something that will be nice for the area.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
Thank you.
Very
So
impressive.
that's kind of looking, if you were standing at the intersection of Beach and Sargent, looking towards the site itself. The main entrance is kind of in a enclosed or a covered section here.
Mike.
We have one door
Okay, come in.
being here into the bank. And these are the elevations of the bank on the four sides.
And is that, this would be for Greg, is that a two-story building?
No, it's just a towered entrance just to give some visibility. Due to the elevations, we wanted to give it a featured spot, and we thought this would be a nice location to give it a featured corner. So that is a single floor slab on grade branch with just the tower.
It's always kind of hard to.
Right, and the way that tower is designed, it's actually all on the outside, so that's why there really is no second story there. If you look at it, it's only cantilevering over in the entrance, and all the space above it doesn't even have access from the interior. There you go.
So this is our first stop in the process of getting permits from the city. It requires, again, the special permit for the drive-through lane and aspects of the project. It will go before planning board and engineering for stormwater permits and curb cuts through DPW in the process through the site.
Is that it?
So yes.
That's great. Yeah. Committee, questions? Councilor Mann.
Yes, thank you so much, gentlemen. This parcel's in, I call it's on the cusp of 3 different wards, Ward 6, Ward 4, and Ward 2, but this specific parcel I'm very familiar with, including the building across the street from it. What I'm concerned with is just the singular entrance for a few reasons. The traffic there is extremely, during busy rush hour times, especially in the morning and in the afternoon, that road, specifically going down the senior center, those are one ways either way, to some degree on the opposite side of the senior center. But for me, Sargent Street, but on the other side. So like when you're passing, not this road, but the other road going opposite, going towards the senior center. Here, yep. So what is that? Beach Street. At some point turns into a one-way. So right when you hit the Wisteria Hearst, it becomes a one-way, and that is a big traffic. I know, I drive through there all the time, and I go to River Valley Counseling for my therapy, and it could become a little bit of a nightmare. And so for me, my concern is traffic and both parking. I know the tenants across the street use that for parking. So the off-street parking, I'm concerned that has nothing to do with you. I'd like to work with DPW on that. But I was just wondering around your decision to pick that specific location as the entrance point. And again, like I said, knowing that becomes during traffic and rush hour times extremely busy, what is your plan for that?
Sure. So as far as access into the bank itself, topography has played a big role on this particular site. So that the Beach Street side, which is two-way traffic, there is a steep hill coming up to the site where it flattens out. I mean, this used to be the old school city. So that we could not get a driveway entrance off of Beach Street because of the topography coming off. Again, once you turn the corner, the topography still climbs up to the site itself, so that it makes it very difficult to try to get 2 entrances coming off of Sargent Street into the site itself. The one-way aspect that you're talking about from Pine is one way coming, is two ways coming both directions. But again, topography-wise, in this corner, it drops down because CVS has a large retaining wall along this whole section. And it's approximately, I would say, probably 12 to 15 foot difference in elevation between our site and where CVS's property is. So the whole, the kind of the senior center is getting up closer on the hillside, and it's all sloping down towards the south and down the street. So we had, difficulties trying to work out grades. There is an existing curb cut here now, which,
Definitely.
granted, this is paved and tenants use it from the abutting properties.
Fix their cars, do what they gotta
Right.
do. Yeah.
For that. There also is a set of steps and walkway coming up into the property itself from the actual intersection of Beach and Sargent. We're going to maintain that for pedestrian access coming into the site so that people that live in the abutting
great.
communities can, that are walking, can access the site.
Got prime location for the parade
Yes.
and the road race.
So it really, it's a small site, and topography-wise, it's really difficult to get two driveway entrances or exits. The other aspect is just the circulation of the traffic. With a bank, you want stacking for cars, so if you have a busy time after payday, there's multiple cars waiting for the drive-up window. You need room to have those cars to be stacking, what they call stacking, as well as a bypass lane. So we're providing employee parking along Beach for the employees, customer parking in the front and on the Beach Street side of the project, and also circulation around that's not going to get somebody trapped in there, so that if they don't want to go to the ATM or the drive-up, they can still drive up and out.
In addition to that, culturally, branching has changed. The amount of trips that we're generating to come to a location is not as much transactional anymore. It's more relationship building. So we're seeing less trips to our branches, so we're able to feel comfortable that with this one entrance exit, we're not going to be overwhelmed during regular hours.
Councilor McGivern?
I hate to say it because I'm usually on the same track as Councilor Roman, but in this one, I agree with the proposal. I think that's the only location you could put a driveway. I had visions you thought you could come off Beach Street like CVS did, which would be a big nightmare, and I think Nelson pointed that out, because that's the thoroughfare. And at the same time, you're taking advantage of Beach Street with the way you designed the building, because people will know you're there as they're driving by. And I think that's even more thoughtful and more significant in terms to what we're doing this evening. Your true test will be site plan review with the whole project, and the hurdles you'll jump through with the planning board, because we found out no matter what we do, they can change it.
Yeah.
But if I can, off of your comment, we did have one preliminary meeting already with all departments from the city. So this plan was developed with their input. So we did not create it knowing that they wanted an exit or entrance on Pine. They really have guided us in this direction also. So we're one step ahead on that we've already had that preliminary meeting. So we do appreciate any input, but we do want you to know that we have had open meetings already.
Greg, that's music to our ears.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when that wouldn't happen until
That's
we'd be asking all the questions.
Not our process, no. We always
We're
like to ask.
just, noting you need a drive-through. You have a reason for it. You've got a reasonable solution as to how to do it. Still have to pass the hurdles of the planning board. To me, it makes sense, and you certainly have my support. And again, thank you for coming to Holyoke, and look forward to driving by and stopping in.
Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Greg, for coming down. And it was a beautiful design. And, I agree with Councilor McGivern on that with the entrance. That pretty much is the only place you can do it. But a little concern I have is when you're coming in there and people are coming around and out, will there be a little bit of notice or signs when they come in? Because I'm just concerned that arrow coming out, someone's coming in, they might be to the left coming in a little bit, and maybe want to try to park over there where the employees park.
Sure. We will have a full signage package that will go along with the bank for directional signage, directing people to the ATM and to the drive-up for it, so that, as well as pavement markings.
To get in and out, yeah.
Yes.
Now, you're going around and you stated that there's a drive-through, just like in a regular bank, where you can see the teller, and they got the box that comes out, and you make a transaction. There'll also be a lane for the ATM, too?
Correct.
Actually, if I could just clarify, yeah, the first lane will be a drive-up ATM, a first-lane ATM. That way it can be serviced from inside the branch. And there will be a vision window to see the second lane with the pneumatic tube. I do not believe we're going to be doing what I would call a dual lane, which means the first lane would have a deal draw and an ATM, so they could use either or. I think our preference is going to be ATM only for first lane, and second lane would be a pneumatic tube system with a window so you could see. And there would not be the draw that would come out.
And people, I know some banks have the closest to the bank, the drawer.
Yeah, what's
And the
happening
second
today,
exit,
yeah,
yeah.
the reason we're doing that today is the cost to enclose an ATM and to service it, we shouldn't have employees going out, and they need to have a money courier service, and it gets very expensive. So to be able to keep an ATM in a first lane, they can service it inside the branch. So we prefer doing them in the first lanes today and second lane pneumatics. So culture's changed a little bit.
And
on
there'll
that.
be signage, they'll say red
There will
letters or
be,
flashing the ATM in the
yes.
first.
So, and again, just to clarify, putting everything on the table, this would be a 24/7 ATM as you see in most locations. So there would be a 24/7 ATM, and we also need lighting. So we follow typically the New York standards for lighting, for security, since Massachusetts doesn't really have any set standards. We would have a photometric plan presented to the planning board, which would give zero light off of the property, but I do want you to be aware there will be lighting required just for safety and security.
Right. And other than the ATM, the drive-up one, you also have one in the lobby area?
No, I don't
You
believe
don't?
we will. Based
Okay.
on transactions, just a little information for you in case you ever get asked this question. You need about 12,000 plus transactions per machine to make it feasible to have two machines, and that's a lot of transactions to have monthly. So typically it'd be just one, which would be an outside one.
And it'll be, now, will the outside one be just drive-through, or can somebody
Just
walk
drive
up to
through.
it?
Well, they don't recommend you walk up to it, but
Right.
we have seen that happen.
I'm sure it does, because most people, most banks have lobbies where they go do the ATM
Right.
when business is closed, and I'm thinking on a Sunday or a holiday, and somebody wants to, that's a concern too, because
Sure.
if someone's in there and standing there, all of a sudden someone swings around and,
We have a nice sight line, though. I think you'll see from the term, we have a nice sight line, so if someone was standing there, it's illuminated. We can't prevent someone from doing that, but in most cases, it's there for a purpose of someone driving in a car. It's set at the height, so you're looking at a window, not really standing and trying to crouch down.
okay. And how many total parking spots you have?
So, right now, and we're still developing this plan.
Okay.
Excuse me. So, in the front of the building, we have 2 handicap spaces, and then an additional 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 customer spaces here, and then another 8 employee parking, which is more than enough for the employees.
Employees.
The employees in the bank, there'll be 5 to 6 employees at the busiest time for the bank. So,
Okay. Thank you.
all set.
Everybody set? Okay, we are in a public hearing. Would anyone from the public, gentlemen, you all set for right now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Would anyone from the public like to speak in favor of this proposal?
Councilor, I guess since I didn't weigh in as part of the committee, I'll weigh in as part of the public and just
you can-
speak in support of this project.
Thank you,
And,
Councilor.
and just on a personal note, I have to say welcome to Matt Sosik to Holyoke.
Sounds good. Okay, would anyone from the public like to speak against this proposal?
I won't speak against it, I'll speak in the middle of it. I should have. Peter Dellert, Sergeant Street, 174 Sergeant Street. I called down here today but didn't get an answer. And most of my questions I'll save for the planning board. And they're picky, but I've been in the neighborhood for 30 years. I'd like to see the plantings either kept or restored. There's some really nice trees on that lot that have existed since the old high school was taken down. And the only thing I'd say about your drive-up is that most of the people in this neighborhood don't have cars. So you might want to consider the accessibility to that ATM. But it's great to have a bank in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess to answer the gentleman's.
Just bring the mic to you a little bit.
Yes, I guess to answer the gentleman's questions, we'll have a full set of plans, landscape plans, lighting plans, that'll be part of the next submission to the city.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I don't see any for the public. Councilor Rahman. Sure.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on that notion that people in that neighborhood don't have a lot of cars. Actually, feel like a lot of the residents in the Churchill neighborhood homes area do have cars. And some of them, like I said, park in there when it's snowing or there's parking bans. So I would like, to personally introduce you to the ones along Pine Street. So if we can work something out during, when there's a parking ban, parking is actually scarce sometimes. So if they can park in there, even just for like an overnight type of a deal, move in the morning, it would be very helpful. But to blanket statement saying that people don't have cars in the neighborhood, actually they do. And I can see a lot of them actually switching for convenience to the bank if it's so close and accessible. But there are people in that neighborhood with cars, so I just wanted to make that public.
Appreciate it. I'll make sure that the bank is aware of these comments.
Okay, well, gentlemen, thanks very much for your presentation. I really appreciate it. I know we all appreciate it.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Discussion? No? On the motion to close the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. We'll take another motion.
A motion to recommend to the full city council to adopt the application for a special permit for a drive-through.
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will recommend it to the full city council at tomorrow night's meeting. So you can attend if you want, or not, but we'll take it up then, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks for your time. Thanks for
Would it
coming.
be helpful if I left this?
Probably.
Sure.
By statute, you have to leave it.
Okay.
Because we had a public hearing, we have to either keep a copy of it or keep all of it.
Well, I don't know about the crackers. Councilor McGivern might,
No,
he might hit the evidence, so I wouldn't put it past him.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Okay, moving west, south or east, or north, whatever.
Motion to take up item number 4.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 4, introduced by Councilor Bacon, ordered that the paper street adjacent to 72 Mueller Road and rear Country Road, I thought it was County
Be
Road.
county.
County Road, yeah, County Road, be declared surplus and made available for sale. And with us, we have the esteemed and brand-new Superintendent of the Department of Public Works, Mr. McManus, who has got some paperwork for us.
Thanks.
Got some pictures.
I
Show
was
and
about to
tell.
Google it, so I guess I don't have to.
This for the public is
Thanks.
like some sort of a GPS map.
This is a map of the street Mueller Road from
Okay, so-
the city's
So,
property viewer.
and we'll hear from you in a second. So I think that the general gist of this, I think we want to hear from Councilor Bacon. So Councilor Bacon, please address and fire away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to read into the record, and I did forward you this email. I thought you already had it, but just in case you don't. This is an email from David Conti regarding Muller Road, that the Holyoke Waterworks would be favorable to the release of the paper street known as Muller Road on the condition that an easement is recorded over the existing 8-inch water main located in the roadway. The water main was installed back in 2012 and runs from its connection point in County Road up to the Tennessee gas line that crosses Muller Road adjacent to the entrance of HG&E's gas facility. A fire hydrant is located at the end of the pipe. The actual location of the water main in Muller Road would need to be field located in order to determine the location of the easement. The easement will need to be a minimum of 30 feet in width and start from County Road to the end point at the fire hydrant. The easement is necessary to provide Holyoke Waterworks with the ability to enter into the property to repair, replace, and/or maintain the water main at any time, and also prevent structures from being erected or built near or on the water main. My staff would be able to field locate the pipe so that a land surveyor can accurately describe the easement on the plan. The easement would need to be recorded in the Registry of Deeds, and I would need a copy of the plan for my records. Please let me know when you plan to move forward with this process. Thanks.
Okay, and is there anything else you want to add beyond that, Counselor?
No, other than I did speak with David, and as long as they could have the needed access, he didn't really have an issue with it.
So, Mr. McManus, you're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. McManus, you want to address the question?
So as far as determining whether or not it can be declared surplus and made available for sale, I don't think the DPW would be at a point to say, yes, let's move forward with that at this point in time. There is the easement issue that David Conti has. There are also other legal issues with this paper street. It doesn't really show up on the map, but off of County Road, on the western side of this parcel, there's a driveway in the paper street going to, it has a property number of 003 or a parcel ID on the map. So there is somebody who's using that portion of the paper street to access their property. There's a question on whether or not there's potential adverse possession where the driveway lies.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't have adverse possession against a municipality, so you know that part, right? There's no adverse possession against against a government entity.
Yeah.
That's not a valid point of law. So I'm just saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
with that, I haven't been able to find an actual legal description of this property. I've talked with the law department. They're in the process of finding out if one exists.
Okay.
The city has accepted the road up to the driveway of the last house, as shown on the plan, back in 1960. We have a street acceptance plan that gets to that property. So from there to County Road, it is a paper street. There's also wetlands.
And how long is it from there, Mike, from that accepted part to County Road? How many feet?
I'd say ballpark 500 to 600 feet.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
What number Muller Road is the driveway going to?
You know, I don't know the address, but if house number 72, Muller, is not shown on this, it's an older
So it
map.
might be 72?
It might be 71. It's across the street. It's the building that's on the triangle that abuts Gas and Electric's facility, where Gas and Electric has their driveway going into their facility.
What building is that? Is that G&E building, that 006 parcel
I
ID?
don't believe so. I believe it's a residential
Oh,
property.
it is, okay. Counselor Bacon, I cut you off, go ahead.
I'm just a little confused because if it's a driveway to the house across the street, the property that I thought I was requesting to be made available for sale is on the other side of the street,
Is on the southern side.
on the side
Right.
that 72 is on, not the side that 71 is on.
Correct.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that the city has accepted Muller Road from Acromont Highway to Station 13 plus 25. So 1,325 feet from Acromont Highway along Muller is an accepted road. And that lies approximately where the driveway to 71 Muller Road is.
Okay.
Right.
So,
So from that point
on.
west is not an accepted road.
Okay, and I believe, if I'm understanding what I looked up correctly, that what I'm requesting is the other side,
Correct. What you're
Not
requesting is
the accepted side,
from the accepted point
on.
to county to be
Right.
declared surplus.
Right, that's
Right.
not being used, that's just on paper.
Correct.
Yes, okay. I just thought I had something backwards there for a minute, but we're saying the same thing.
We're saying the same thing, and I guess at this point in time, I'm requesting more time to truly flush this out so that we know exactly what we're doing.
Okay, because my intention is not to change anything I think that is. It's just to make that's not been used and never will be used available.
Right.
That's all. Okay.
Counselor, you're good to go for now?
Yes, I think what I'm talking about is not what you described. It's past that.
So
Right?
what you're asking for is from the end of the accepted street of Muller to County Road.
I believe so.
That's what I
to
thought
be
she was
declared.
asking.
Right.
And that's why I identified the two parcels that it was next to, so to try to be clear.
Right, and those parcels, if you look on the plan, those are 035 and 032. They're
Oh, okay,
on
the
southern
reference
side.
that I saw, I guess, was a different reference.
The-
okay.
Well, the parcel ID
Yeah,
is 182-00-032 and 182-00-035. But for this plan, that
Gotcha.
first part's taken off, and all we get are the last three numbers.
okay.
Okay, Counselor McGivern?
Part of my question was the reason, and I think it makes sense, especially if someone were to develop both of those lots. But Mike, continuing down back to County Road, and when you do Google this, you get an even clearer picture. That driveway is right in the middle of Paper Street.
Correct.
So I don't think we want to open this street up anyways, because it would be a straight through shot from County Road back to Appermont, which is not what we know why we don't need that.
Right.
But is there a way, while we're doing this, to also see if the owner would take over that
Correct, yeah.
very reasonably?
That would be part of it.
Because it might solve a lot of problems,
Take over what?
ownership of the property.
So the person on County
Just
Road.
continue to Paper Street at County Road.
And where this property has their driveway, that portion of the paper street could be offered up
Yeah.
to them. We still need to get a legal description of this overall parcel in order to, divvy it up for release.
Yeah. I guess I'm just confused as to whether it abuts on 71 Muller Road or 72 Muller Road.
72 Muller Road is on the south side of Muller Road.
Right,
The house isn't shown in this plan because the house is new.
Right.
And this satellite image doesn't show that.
right. But if my recollection of the street is correct, I think that's the abutting property to the paper street.
I think both 72.
They might both be, one
They
from
both
over
do.
here and one from over there.
Correct.
Gotcha.
The paper
So-
street splits.
Right.
71 and 72.
Right. So I would just suggest that if it is made available, that both abutters be made aware.
Well, I think we would make all abutters aware.
Right.
Even the bigger lot, 41, I'm not sure who owns that, but,
Okay.
That's a condominium complex.
so they probably need that land or don't want to develop it.
It depends on what they would want for access. I mean, would they want to connect their road to Muller Road, their driveway? Certainly, the loop back to
Yep.
County Road would be precluded by this driveway that somebody's constructed on the paper street. But your point is well taken.
But we don't want the loop from County Road
No.
back to Appermont,
No.
because that would be a nightmare in terms of cut-through traffic.
Right. That's why it's still a paper street.
No,
Yeah.
but Counselor, no, I get that, but what about, I mean, there's those other parcels that are kind of landlocked back there, so what do we say to them? Just,
So on the north side is gas and electric, and I believe they have a solar field.
That's the solar field.
that's a solar, okay.
No, I'm agreeing to open it up, Counselor Bartley,
And then
but just not to County Road.
the other two lots, Lot 32 and 35, on this map are owned by the same gentleman.
Okay, so how would you like us to proceed, Mike?
Yeah, we need to come up with a legal description and figure the best way to proceed in the city's best interest.
Okay, so you want to prepare what you need to prepare, get in touch with Counselor Bacon, and then she can contact me, and we can take this back off the table? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, can I just add,
You can add away.
from time to time, we've come up with these little slivers of land throughout the city. One that I recall specifically was in between the school and JP's restaurant. And when they're not serving any purpose, they're just a paper thing on paper. I don't see the harm, and if the city can sell it and somebody wants to buy it and the water company has what it needs, why not?
Right.
So it's not really anything more complicated, from my point of view. But
So that's something you'd have to work with the mayor's office on, if we're going to put a parcel of city property for sale.
Correct.
I mean, the mayor's office has some choices, just depending upon the value of the parcel, right? So, on how to market it, either RFP, or if it's under a certain value, you can just sell it. So, but it's got to come through city council first, so before it can be disposed of. But, so, I don't want to put. Go ahead, Councilor.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
How big is the property?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because I'm not really sure. either.
Is there a time constraint, Counselor?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So, Mike, as your schedule allows, and, you can prepare what you need to
Yeah.
prepare.
I
And
didn't think it
the
would be such a problem.
the city
Sorry.
solicitor is working on them. We gave them the street acceptance plan for what is there. And they're going to start looking into the registry of deeds to try to find out where this parcel lies.
Do a title exam? Do what they call a title exam?
Yeah, I believe so,
Yeah, that's what they call it. That's exciting stuff. Final practice in that area.
Well, thank you.
Council Tomlin.
I thought it would be simpler, but
Well, yeah, I think sometimes things get a little bit complicated, I get, right? Can I make a motion to table this for further review from the
Well,
law
just before I make
department?
that motion, I want to make sure everybody's good to go. Counselor, you good to go on this? I'm fine. Okay, Counselor, you all set?
yes, thank you.
Right. Yeah, we're just going to table it
Well, we're going
until
to table it, so I think that's
to further review for you, research, and with the law department,
That'd be
you
great.
get back to us.
motion tables on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's tabled.
Thank you.
Let me just mark that for posterity. Thank you, Counselor. That's always helpful. Okay. All righty. Okay. Now we're into the lightning round. We love the lightning round, don't we? Well, we didn't have minutes, Mike. So those are going to be to stay on the table for now. And just for our administrative assistant, when he has a chance, if you could just put in the meeting minutes, Mr. Allen, the moment of silence, I would appreciate that. Okay, if I could get a motion to take number 5 off the table, please.
Motion to take up item number 5?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. This is an order that, one of 2 CDBG orders we have in a row, and we can move on real fast with these. CDBG funding, community development block grant funding, it's coming back around again. I imagine applications are being solicited, and as well as the public knows that I think the mayor's office is looking for volunteers to serve on the advisory committee as well. So if anyone in the public hears this and they want to serve on the advisory committee, they're encouraged to contact the mayor's office. And so we invited the mayor to attend this committee hearing. And then I said, please consider designating $100,000 of CDBG funds for business facade improvements. And I go on to say, as suggestions that grants to businesses should require matching funds at least 25%. So I filed this in October. We took it up in November, and we're going to dispose of this tonight. And then I did reach out to the mayor. The mayor said that among other things, that he's, unavailable to attend this meeting. I did reach out to what's her title, Joe? Alicia's title? Director? Yeah, the Community Development Director, Alicia Zeller. She sent an email to me on November 2nd in anticipation of the November 3rd meeting. I guess she was unavailable for tonight. Very good email. The facade improvement program has been periodically funded over 15 years, she wrote. Most recently, there was $50,000 in 2013 and $50,000 in 2014. The interesting thing to me is, in all this time, there's been a grand total of one facade improvement grant, and that was on Race Street. So, when I drive to my office on a regular basis and I see on High Street 2 signs for Oscar Bale that's been out of business for, at least in Holyoke, for going on 30 years, it just seemed to me that there wasn't a whole lot of effort. I got some conflicting reports from the mayor's office on this, but it really doesn't matter. Basically, in the last 5 years, we've had one application run to completion for facade improvements, and that was a 92 Race Street for $25,000. Now, there's a couple other applications pending, and there's some new inquiries, but basically there is cash available, but either it's a poorly marketed program or no business owners, which I find hard to believe, or property owners have any interest in this. Now, there are, it's a little bit cumbersome at times because you're using public grant money, and you have to do some reporting, and you have to do some matching funds, and you also have to comply with Davis-Bacon prevailing wage acts. I would have thought there would have been more than one applicant in the 5 years I've been on the city council, but apparently not. So with that, I don't really, I put it out for consideration, as we all know in this committee, that we can make recommendations until we're blue in the face. And ultimately, it comes down to for CDBG funds, it comes down to the mayor. So that's all I have to say. I'm just going to, does anybody else want to make a comment? No, I don't think so, right? I'm just going to say, motion complied. If somebody has to make a motion complied with, then we can move on.
Motion that the order be complied with?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. If we could get a motion for number 6, please.
Motion to take up item number 6?
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, great, okay. City Council asked the mayor, DPW superintendent to use 2017 CDBG funds to purchase and install an outdoor bulletin board that can be locked and is waterproof, that is of sufficient size and installed at a convenient location for the public. So I think, as you know, I think we had, we're joined by Councilor Lopez. Welcome, Councilor Lopez. I think you know, have we ever had, and I'm not going to ask you, Joe, the question unless you want to answer it, but in my brief time, I don't think we've ever had a meeting of the Holyoke City Council canceled because of either a lack of a quorum or a lack of notice. But we managed to do that. We managed to do that at our first meeting in November. So we set a historic city council record. I'll defer to Councilor McGivern if he remembers another time. But I know I never heard of a time where, and furthermore, I don't have the order directly in front of me, but Councilor Jordan and I co-sponsored an order 2 years ago this month, asking the mayor to put up a bulletin board outside City Hall on High Street or on Dwight Street, wherever it wants to be placed, so that we don't run into these potential open meeting law violations, i.e., if we don't get our stuff together and get the stuff uploaded online, you can't come into a locked building to see posted meetings. So the solution was, like many other towns do it, Many other cities do this. They have little lock cases outside the building, and that clears the way for a meeting to go ahead because you've complied with open meeting. You posted it and good to go. So, Mike, I'm glad you're here, and so the hope is, then, CDBG funds, to me, it seemed like a pretty straightforward way. I mean, this is a CDBG eligible location.
Right.
I can't imagine what this costs if it can't be more than $1,500 to get a really nice one so you can put the pages in. So fire away, sir.
In talking with the mayor's office about this project, where the city's looking into a PEG grant to get an electronic display that would have all of the same information. So instead of a bulletin board, it would be an electronic display that would be visible outside by everybody. So hopefully that would be acceptable.
Well, wait a minute.
and
So
we'll-
an electronic display, this gonna what? This gonna like scroll the whole agenda?
Meeting dates.
Well, that doesn't cut it,
time.
because to comply with open meeting law, you've got to post. So sometimes we have agendas that are like 20 pages. To comply with open meeting law, you got to post all the pages, and, the whole page. So, I mean, I think it'd be really cool to have an electronic board, with all the pages go up, but, gee whiz,
Yeah.
we have a website that can't even, you can't even find city council members on it, so.
So I was told we are complying with the order by having an electronic bulletin board to do that.
Doesn't comply with the order.
Okay.
I'm just saying, Mike.
I'm
listen.
letting you know what I've heard.
Well, listen, I'm not like, a Luddite here, and we have to have like, everything on paper. I mean, if you've got an electronic way to do this, I mean, believe me, sign me up. I'm ready to, I'm good to go with it.
Okay.
But there should be something, that, again, doesn't detract from the, City Hall itself. It's an historic building, and I get that. I don't want to put something out there that takes away from the building. But at the same time, it would be, my opinion, it's really based upon what happened in November, how we had to have a meeting canceled because we couldn't get our act together and post a meeting, which is unprecedented in this city, to my knowledge. So couple that with the fact that we had an order 2 years ago saying, can we get something outside City Hall? So, I mean, listen, I'm just asking to, we can't force anybody. I'm asking you to consider it, but that's all I have to say. Council, if you want to answer a question, you why don't you come in and take us? Well, you got to come up to the microphone.
Let me sit down for a minute.
But before you speak, any members of the committee want to speak? Councilor Roman.
Yes, Mike, thank you so much. I just had a few questions. So you said you spoke to someone in the mayor's office?
Rory.
You spoke with Roy, and Roy said they're going after a PEG grant?
He and Eileen.
Is the application in?
I'm not sure.
What's the amount of the, so no, again, I'm just, again, this might be rhetorical, I just want you to answer yes or no.
Okay.
Did they tell you how much the grant was for?
No.
Did they tell you what the process was, or did they look at electronic meters or electronic signs and how much they cost?
No.
Did they ask you to look up any of those costs?
No.
Did they ask you to look at traditional? No, nothing. So my order, and that's why I would like to see this actually tabled and continue this discussion, where I agree with Councilor Bartley. I know firsthand what it's like to have a subcommittee canceled because of lack of public notice. So I share in the frustration of my colleagues. My very first one as a chairman of a committee got canceled because of lack of public notice. And for me, including the community, I would like to see some like tangible ideas and ways and costs of actual physical outside signs for me. And again, for me to have, anyone say, hey, we're going to go after this grant or that grant. If the grant's not in, you could come tomorrow and say, hey, I'm going to go apply for the Mickey Mouse grant and we're going to possibly get it in the future. That's not a tangible way for me to then let my constituents know. And where I agree with Councilor Bartley, just thinking about costs, and I know because I've worked in offices and ordered office equipment, in order for you to scan and have an electronic kind of sign holder out there that's going to truly put forward all the pages of a scanned document, that's going to be expensive. And my other question is, we live in a real world. We've had a tornado, a blizzard, a blackout. What happens when the power goes down? What happens when there's a malfunction on this machine that's out there? Yes, sometimes traditional paper copies is the best way to go. So those are all my concerns. Has nothing to do with you. I personally would like to see us recommend this, but I want to see some tangibles. So if the next time, I'm going to try to see if we could table this today. I would like to have this appear before us again, some actual physical comparisons with, like, this is a physical outdoor signage post that we could put up tomorrow, and this is the cost for it. Because if it is, as my colleague said, something where if it's only $1,500 and it won't cost us anything to install, why wouldn't we recommend that the mayor put this through for CBDG funding to get this done? So again, it's not a personal or anything towards you. I just wanted to call out again, because you said you spoke with someone. Who was that someone? Did we apply for the grant? And I'll follow up with Rory myself and the mayor to see what's going on with that. So thank you.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you, Counselor. First, the answer to your question is the answer, I think, to what we want to do, but this has only happened once at a full city council meeting, I think once to a subcommittee, because the interpretation and the actual language of the open meeting law only changed 4 or 5 years ago. And we actually discussed putting outside of City Hall the bulletin board. And I don't remember if it was a cost or a visual issue with the powers to be at the time, but they convinced us that the website, along with the bulletin boards on the inside of City Hall, but the website online was all we had to do. And that's why we went with that. Until recently, that was never a problem. But this stricter and newer version of the open meeting law is what we're dealing with, and I agree. We need something outside City Hall that's a permanent structure that can be changed within the time frame of the open meeting law itself. And I don't, well, I'll be honest with you, I hate electronic bulletin boards. I think they're ugly. I think they're gonna. I hate that thing.
I can't even imagine why.
You know, it was like I don't like neon lights. You know, it does. I look away. I've yet to read one of them at any time.
But Joe, to his point though,
But-
I mean, how do you get the stuff up on electronic?
And not the amount, and I think we've made that point. The amount of what has to go into this to satisfy the open meeting law isn't going to work on a very small electronic bulletin board, because you'd be sitting there for, it's like watching the Access Channel at home. You sit there forever to see Diostato's name come up. They still haven't put it there
I know
yet.
I do. Councilor Lopez? Joe, are you all set? Joe?
I'm set, yeah.
Councilor Lopez?
I just want to go over the open meeting law. Is very critical, and in my opinion, having been to at least 2 training with the open meeting law, we have some serious problem in City Hall, especially with the bulletin board. Just putting 1 page of a 5 pages agenda doesn't do it. And the city council, I was responsible for that cancellation of that meeting on the 1st, because I saw it. It wasn't posted Friday, and I even emailed Kevin, and I emailed McGee. I told them, this is, if you want to hold a meeting, go ahead, hold a meeting, but I'm not going to even be part of that meeting because it's not going to be legal. And the key here is that maybe we need to invite and provide training to the city council and to some of the commissioners just to make sure that we're complying. Because I think I don't want to file any complaints, but I think that we're not meeting the open meeting law in a lot of meetings. And I can give you a lot of examples. And you just have to go and ask for a training, and they will show you. I mean, you don't have to be a professor to know that you're not complying. It's very simple. And on the electronic sign, I filed an order way back when I was a city councilor before, asking for an electronic sign, and that's not going to do it, in my opinion, unless you're able to put the whole agenda. So you're going to have some serious problem there. I mean, you can put the sign, it will look beautiful, but it's not going to comply. And when you can even call the AG's office, and they will, I mean, I can send you a document. I'm going to send it to you with a lot of these issues, and then you can read it and bring it to Mr. Casey. He needs some education. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I did forget one thing.
Councilman McGivern?
I do agree with the PEG, it's a PEG grant, it's a PEG access grant. PEG access is the cable TV money that we have that no one will tell us who the new committee is that we haven't voted on yet that's in charge of this. The old committee was the mayor, the city council president, and the city solicitor. And before the new funding schedule, that was fine. The reason in either source is fine. I just think the priority should be PEG access because that's the money that we use to televise these meetings, to televise our full city council meetings, and to buy this equipment and other equipment within City Hall. And it just makes sense to, with knowing that the strain that's on the community block grant money for some good request. I mean, either one would work, but PEG access I think should be the priority. And if the mayor says yes, it should be no problem.
Well, I've said in here, first of all, we don't know who's on the PEG Access Board. I don't know when they've ever met. And I said, why aren't PEG Access meetings televised on PEG Access? I got a big laugh. Can you imagine that? We're going to have a PEG Access meeting on TV? Yeah, I was serious. But no, it was like a big joke. Can you imagine that? Have a meeting about hundreds of thousands of dollars in a PEG Access fund and have that on camera? Can't imagine that. Councilman Solomon?
Yeah, I think you heard us loud and clear on what's going on from everybody, but I agree with Councilor Lopez. I think that's a good idea to maybe have some training, all of us here, maybe just, people in the city clerk's office and the administrative assistant, just to really understand the open meeting law and what we have to do, to comply with that, because there's some things that, like you said, we don't realize. You may think, oh, we comply, but there might be one small little thing you're missing, or one little article, or one time, or one, cutoff that you're, not showing up on the computer, the TV, or whatever that, is important. And it could just cancel everything out. I just like that meeting. And I've been there a few years, and that's the first time I ever remember having a meeting canceled because of not being, advertised properly, But, I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry, and I think Kevin realized that, so.
And if you, I just want to mention this, if you go to the bulletin board, the one that we have over here in City Hall, every page has to be stamped and dated. And there's a reason why. When you go there, that's not happening. So that's a big problem. I'm not an enforcer, but I mean, I know that when you read and you follow the open meeting law, you have to follow it, because I mean, if there's anyone complain, I mean, in my opinion, you're not complying, and that's a serious problem.
Councilor Mann?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm going to, again, make a motion to table, but before I do, I just want to say that to me, the spirit and what I came prepared here to look at today, based off of Councilor Bartley's order, which I think is a brilliant order, going along the spirit of what all my colleagues were saying, was to physically look at, these are options for how and what type of bulletin board we could put outside of City Hall. And that is not presented before us, and again, Mike, that's not your problem, but I would like to see that next time. Like, these are options, these are the cost, this is how much it would cost us to put up, these are the different kinds we could put up, a physical looking of how much this would cost us, whether that's electronic or not, what that would be. And for me, going forward, again, I, similar to all my colleagues, very rarely know where fundings and things are coming from there. So for me, for next time, I would like to make that order, a motion to table this item, to have you come before us with physical options for what we would be able to do in that spirit of making us compliant. And I do agree with my colleague, we need to go to a training, but for me, next time when I sit down, I would like to see what those options are, how much they would cost, and again, is it going to be in the same spirit and look of our city hall? Is it going to be outside on the grass? Is it going to be affixed to the wall? Those are the things, to me, Mr. Chairman, and I can't speak to your order, but that's what I came anticipating today as a committee member. So with that, I'll make a motion to table this item.
Just hold off on that. Councilor McGivern?
Two things. One is on record, in fairness to the city clerk's office, the meeting that we canceled was posted on the website. Was posted. It came off, and they're trying to figure out how. But that was the argument getting back to when we originally said they they being, the city solicitor's office and I'm just gonna say the powers that be at the time, talked us out of doing the bulletin board outside. And there was a lot of reasons. It doesn't matter. They were reasonable, good reasons. But the way to resolve it was the website. Now we found there's a problem, or there may not be a big problem, but there was a problem this particular day. That is, for some reason, after being posted, it came off, and no one knows exactly why. Two is, at our next meeting, we should invite the city clerk in, because it's the city clerk who's responsible for this board, not the city council. And we should make sure that, we're all on the same page. Just a suggestion.
Well, I guess the way I look at it, Kevin did, President Jourdain did co-file this with me, so I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but he let me kind of run with this. So I would be of the opinion that it's okay to table this, but, I wasn't really thinking about design, although I kind of like that. I like talking about the design of it, because as we're sitting here, and we have a historic building here, 1973, it was on the historic register, U.S. Historic Register, and, you just don't want, anything outside this building, just to satisfy a basic, law. I mean, we want something, appropriate, but yet it's going to be effective and get the job done. So I guess, Mike, I have to say to you, not to put you on the spot, so, I mean, I don't think this committee is going to convene again until after the new year, but it'll be before we get into CDBG time. So maybe, maybe the 4th or 5th or 6th, I'll see what the committee wants to do at that point to meet. But maybe we'll meet in that little window. And what would you say to that? Would that be enough time for you to sort of circle back to the mayor's office and?
Yes.
And see if in fact, your department wants to apply for CDBG or PEG access. You may come back to say, gentlemen, the CDBG, we heard what Councilor McGivern said, and others say, the funds are so tight, they can be better used for homework house, which I'm sure they could, because we have this pool of this pool of funds for PEG access. So I guess we'd have to hear more about that. And then to Councilor Roman's point, it would be nice to have some kind of a rendering, but not that we're architects or anything or whatever, but designers. But it would be nice to have something just to see where it could be placed on which street and how would it fit into the the overall scheme of things here. I mean, does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, a rendering might be a little tricky to do, but we can do our best to come up with different options.
Okay, Councilor Lopez?
I have an idea. We have a professor from UMass working in the city. He came out with those unbreakable panels down in the flags that are showing, if you go under the brakes there, Professor Kaczynski, he probably will have an idea. He probably will provide the city council with a panel that will be unbreakable the way he have it down there, and that will be the way that we will put the
Possibly you could put the gentleman in touch with Mr.
I will
McManus.
send you his email, because I think that he will be more than happy with his class to design something that will be nice to the building and something. It doesn't have to be in this building, but I mean, we need to make sure that we have something that is going to look good, but at the same time, it's going to stay there for years. I mean, if you go down by the flags, I mean, those panels still running all the time. You cannot even break them. I don't know what he did, but I mean, he's the guy. So, thank you.
Okay.
Motion to table?
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, I'll just mark that one for, then we'll just move on to the last part of the agenda. Thank you, Mr. McManus. Oh, yeah, Mike, do you want to stay around for these last two here? This is going to be fast, quick.
Pretty quick, yeah, because he was at that.
Okay. Why don't we take, do they go together? Okay, you want to suspend the rules?
Yeah, motion to suspend the rules and take up item number 7 and 8 as a package.
Motion to suspend and take items 7 and 8 package. On the motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay. These are motions, filed by Dan and Howie and Nelson. First one, order that John J. Lynch be returned to the Holyoke School Committee forthwith for proper disposition, and ordered by Councilor Graney that the city council do whatever is necessary to preserve John J. Lynch for the people of Holyoke, includes doing a feasibility study possibly to move the school department offices to that location, open the building for all educational and recreational purposes for our city's children. And there it is. So there's the John J. Lynch orders. Councilor Romont, why don't you sort of bring us up to speed as to your knowledge? I will say this, that I did invite the head of OPED to come, but Mr. Allen heard from him today that he was unavailable.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So I co-filed this along with Councilors Bresnahan and Graney, the joint order. And since that time, we've taken a tour. The city council, school committee members, city officials have taken a tour of the facility. So it was enlightening and eye-opening to me as a counselor to physically be in the space. The gymnasium side clearly works, but there's a lot of strengths towards keeping the building, there was a lot more deficits or deltas towards keeping it or repairing it, in my opinion. But that was just my opinion as a counselor, seeing things like the black mold or simply the infrastructure with some of the building, the lights weren't working, some wasn't. I'm not sure if it could be a school, but I think that we could repurpose it and use it. The gym works perfectly fine, but it was eye-opening for me. But it all goes down to, again, for me, cost, and seeing that study and impact of if we convert it and make it the school department headquarters, what would that cost like? But even the entrance on the side was really tight for me. But again, that was my observation. I thought was really good. And the only kind of, I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me, Mr. Chairman, was the gentleman who again, gave us the tour is also interested in buying the building. And he made that very public in his statements to me and others that he's actually interested in developing it if he could. It was just a little weird for me that I'll just throw that out there. And that, of course, if I'm interested in buying something, I'm going to say this is terrible. So that was the only thing that just didn't, it was like, oh, okay, this is a little uncomfortable for me as one of the counselors, but it was fascinating to see the building almost stuck in time. There was tons of paintings and artworks of kids drawing. There was like a whole Puerto Rican history like section, and there was a hall pass, detention pass, and a bird feeder for Counselor Bartley. But just kidding. It was a really amazing experience to see the school stuck in time, but. Like I said, that was just why I filed this order. I'm thankful to my colleagues, including Councilor Bartley, for making sure I got my butt up there that day, because I would have forgotten if not for him. But I thought it was a really good tour, and I'll let any of my other colleagues share their experiences. So for me, I would see these orders as complied with, because, again, I still want to see the cost analysis, the cost-benefit analysis of converting it. And likewise, to my colleagues, I am the chairman of the Joint Committee of the City Council and School Committee, and I just attended one of the public meetings that the receiver is out there doing the studying for realigning the district schools, and actually the state panel that is looking at all of the schools didn't even consider or look at Lynch as one of their options because of all of the deltas. So it wasn't even on their radar as the realignment. So just wanted to throw that out there to my colleagues as well.
Yeah, I took the tour as well. It was, I was just blown away at how great that building is. I didn't go to school there or Peck. I was in Catholic school for 8th through 8th grade, but it was wow, what a beautiful building. And the classrooms looking out to the huge windows, and the built-in bookcases. The auditorium was really nice. I played ball in that gym as a kid 400 times. So there's we're familiar with that, but it's what a special place. On the other side of the coin, we're being fed the company line that, oh, gee whiz, this is, Ms. Councilor Bartley, this is, $12.5 million at $240 per square foot to fix up the property. And, so it was really, and there was a gentleman there that the counselor, my colleague, referenced from Forbes and Wheeler, that was, interested in possibly being a bidder for the property. So that was, that was that. So, but anyhow, I'm glad I had the tour, and I saw the condition of the building. I mean, folks should, those are new ceilings in there, Mike. I can tell you that. New ceilings in those hallways. And I mean new like in the last, within 10 years for sure, but I think newer than that. So at some point, the city did some work and spent some money in there. On the other side of the coin, you see, the lack of handicap access, and I guess there's mold and things like that, asbestos as well in the walls and whatnot. So, those are some really big hang-ups there that, I can't speak for Councilor Graney, but, he's so passionate about that school, and the name John J. Lynch is, such a legendary name in education, public school education, and it's an iconic building too. So, you can see his, they get emotional about the building. I can't blame them. And then people who went to school there, you get emotional about it. And so, but we have to be realistic as well. So, I don't know if any of the councilors want to speak to this, or Mike, if you want to, Councilor McGivern.
Just to take it a step further, try not to repeat everything that's been said, it was a grand tour. John J. Lynch School served a wonderful purpose in the education of many school children throughout the years that it was in service. It's been out of service several years now, and we've already gone through this once before, but it's not just the cost which is prohibited to put it back online for a school or to put it back online for some other use. It's also what we marketed and what we did as a master plan for the city. We determined after a intensive study that the I-91 corridor, with the use of Route 5 off of I-91, is an important place for us to market commercial developments. We're land poor when it comes to commercial developments. We have a lot of options in terms of when it comes to schools. And even if we put the money back into John J. Lynch, there's no parking. The busing of the kids, even when it was a junior high school, was a nightmare during the course of the day when kids were being picked up, when kids were being dropped off. There were safety issues getting everybody across Route 5. It was just a lot of, and we're under contract, so I'm not even sure how we're talking about this, because there's still a developer out there that is running down on its reverter, but running down on the reverter in terms of what they've proposed to do. We don't get to dictate to the private sector when they develop something who the tenant's going to be or who the occupant's going to be. The private funding, the private owners do that. But we do dictate by zoning, and we identified this as a key area for commercial developments. I understand how Councilor Graney feels, and I think a lot of us feel like that with him. Unfortunately, the property we talked about earlier this evening was the site of the original high school annex. The original high school burnt down, and they built another great Holyoke legend who believed and lived their life for education. Ann McHugh was the name of the temporary school that lasted almost 28 years, across the street. And that is now the senior center site. The access, that was quite a high school there too in the beginning. Holyoke Community College was part of the high school. Not only was it part of what became Holyoke, that's why the building was built and eventually became Ann McHugh Elementary School. But where we're talking about with the new bank this evening was the the annex for the original high school building. Had a pool in the basement, had an auditorium, had an incredible building. That didn't burn down. That was torn down after the pharmacy college. Councilor Tallman had it for a while too. I'm all in favor of using buildings as long as you can, but when you stop using a building, it's limited time to turn it around, and before you have to put good dollars on top of bad dollars. And if we put any dollars into Lynch School, to me it would defeat the purpose of what we're trying to do, and it would just eventually be good dollars spent on top of a great idea, but on top of bad dollars, and just wouldn't work for the long run. If you're going to spend any amount of dollar, you got to make sure you have a 20, 30-year building out of it, and that's not going to happen with Lynch.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, thank you. Also, just to continue with what Joe just said here, as far as the costs go, the asbestos problems, now I just finished my refresher course last week, and there's a lot of new information come to light. As far as mesothelioma, the rate for school teachers is increasing. They've now completed studies on this at a more dramatic rate than the rest of the general population. So when people think about asbestos problems in these old schools, especially ones that were built in the 50s and 60s, they don't realize the huge amount of remediation and the standards and the continuing ongoing monitoring that is now required by what's called a SHIRA or a HERA, and I don't know the exact moniker, but it's an entirely different level of monitoring than for a regular commercial building where schools are involved. The asbestos is in the window caulking, it is in the floor tiles, it is in, it could be, even though there's a new ceiling, there could be an old ceiling up behind it. The list goes on and on, besides the conventional things people think of with just a steam heating system. It's fire doors, it's all over the place. When you go to renovate a building now, if you're continuing to occupy and use it, it can be monitored, which is also becoming a more costly thing. It has to be done and reports have to be filed on an annual basis. But when you get into the remodeling and reusing and repurposing, it has to be cured. So, and to finish up on that, when you do that, when the city does that, it's at a prevailing wage rate, which is triple the price of what any developer or someone else taking that on would have to spend on it. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. Councilor Stallman?
Might as well weigh in. I'm the last person, I think, in the committee to say something. So I took the tour also, and I got there a little bit late, and I have a sort of emotional attachment to the school. I went to public schools, and I went to Lynch for 2 years in grade school. I had a lot of good memories there. And actually, my older brother was one of the first graduating classes there, I think, at probably 1954 or 55 out of Lynch. But seeing the costs that would take for the city to take, just the asbestos problem itself would be, phenomenal. I talked in millions of dollars. And, it's nice to, have a building and it's got its, its time, but I believe it had its time. And that corridor up there is all commercial, and people I've talked to and business leaders in the area, especially people right in that area down the road, especially Mr. Radner from, American Rug, would like to see a business up there, and bring in some tax dollars and to get some employment there, and our job is to, the zone. It's not what goes in there. It's to change the zone. And I just don't see this as continuing as a school, and the cost of the city would be phenomenal to do that. So, I hope we can look at this and say it had its time. It's got to move on, and let's try to bring in some development to the city and jobs and tax dollars.
So, Mike, you heard from us. You want to weigh in a little bit?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to the conversation other than the cost of remediation and demolition. I thought it was on the order of $1 to $1.2 million. That's my recollection of what was discussed that night during the tour.
For what? 1 to 2 million?
1.2. I thought that was the cost for remediation and demolition. Correct, yeah.
Okay. So it's very expensive. So what was Forbes and Wheeler, what were they doing there?
Forbes and Wheeler is the city's consultant. They did the sampling, and they wrote the reports for the hazardous material sampling and analysis. So they're the ones who took all the tests. They made all the tests, and they prepared the report. They also believe they did the same or similar work for the potential developer.
Where's that? What's this? What stage are we in with the potential developer? So we had a.
It's not in DPW's court, as far as I know. I think it's more with economic planning and development.
We're getting near it's not part of HEDIC, it's part of just overall, but we get the reports. And it's getting near the end of the reverter clause where they have to either get it extended or,
Or it gets kicked back to
or
the
it gets
city.
kicked back to the city.
Would that just come back to the city council pro forma, or does somebody?
I think the city. The only thing the city council vote was the schools were no longer using it. Schools cannot own buildings that they're not using for a school purpose. And you know, I don't want to hash out the whole vote, but, you know, there was a vote taken and there was another vote taken, and that's when we declared it surplus, and eventually it was marketed and the developer came forward, and, you know, our role now would be if there's a needed zone change, other things like special permits and, you know, drive-throughs and things like that.
Yeah, so zone change came before us, and we
Or if
denied
the
it.
city wanted to demolish it, then we'd have to deal with, you know, the cost of demolishing it,
But
or,
as it stands right now, isn't there a purchase and sale agreement?
to my knowledge, the purchase and sale is still alive.
Still
It's still under
valid until the
contract,
end
but
of the
it's
year?
near the end of the reverter.
At which point in time that would expire and the property would.
Action would have to be taken, you know, by the city to, I can't think of the right terminology, not enforce the reverter, but to accept the reverter, you know, or extend it.
And then it would come back to the city for the city to do with whatever, whether to.
Well, it's like any property, the city owns it. You know, the issue of the school property is a little different than most property the city owns. You know, when the schools take over a piece of property, at one time, the DPW used to be the keeper, the landlord of the property. But years ago, we changed that to have the schools and the principal be more involved with their buildings, and it worked out pretty good. The buildings were better kept, but getting off on a tangent here. But the answer to your question is it would revert back to city property. Well, it is city property, but it would revert back to city property, and the city would have to make a decision whether to continue to market it, whether or not, you know, I believe the mayor would have to initiate giving it back to the schools. But that would require a city council vote. Currently, we've declared it surplus, and currently, you know, as Councilor Broadway pointed out, I mean, we've taken some other votes on it, but the
Well, we would
property-
need a vote, Joe, to either, from this body, to either terminate or extend the reverter. Is that a true statement?
I don't think this body controls this one. I think we declared it surplus, and I think the Economic Development Office, Planning Department, you know, were the ones that marketed it, entered into an agreement with the developer. Because it's not a HEDIC, and it's not part of the urban renewal plan. It's a separate,
We
Project.
invite department heads to come in to answer these questions, but sometimes they can't make it. So, Councilor Roman?
Yes, I just had one final question, Mike. The eye-opening moment for me on the tour in Lynch was clearly the benches and things like that. So I just wanted to ask you, how long have they been sitting in Lynch?
They were donated to the city by the Holyoke Mall. And at one point in time, I'm not sure how long they've been sitting there.
You're not sure? Okay.
And I know we had talked about.
Yeah, I
moving
filed
them
an order.
out.
It's going to be on tomorrow night's meeting to get them out. But if you could just find out the timeline for me and get that back to me, how long they've been sitting idle.
Sure.
Beautiful benches and park receptacles and planters, and I just want to know how long they've been sitting there when we have benches in disarray in parks throughout the city. So if you can just find out how long they've been sitting there, I'd appreciate it.
All right, well, I did hear from Councilor Bresnahan earlier today, and his opinion was that, you know, since there is a committee now that kind of supposed to be tackling this issue, that I think Councilor McGee and Councilor Lisi, I believe, are on that committee. Councilor Bresnahan was of the opinion that you could give his order, I mean, along with yours, or that you're signed on to, complied with. I did not hear from Councilor Graney on this, but I mean, they're kind of similar orders, so.
just, I'll seek your guidance, Mr. Chairman, but just should it either be leave to withdraw or deny? And I think leave to withdraw would be with the permission of the makers of the order. the way it's worded, it's not,
Right.
bring people in and talk about it. It's calling for action in both orders. And, if we're all in agreement that the intents of these orders are certainly good, but after what we saw and after what we learned about cost and other things, it just isn't affordable.
Well, I think that instead of giving leave to withdraw, we should, probably vote on the merits of the order. That would be my opinion, but I'll accept any kind of motion. If you want to give it leave to withdraw, someone else take that motion, we'll do it, or we'll vote on the merits, one way or the other. I'm pretty flexible.
Well, motion may be denied.
Okay, we have a motion that the orders that are before us, because of the specificity, I think that's fair to say, of their actions that we deny them. So, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, both motions are denied. Before we adjourn, we're just looking ahead to the calendar here, and we're thank you, Mike. We're looking at, January 9th is a Monday, January 12th is a Thursday. I mean, I really don't care, but those would be the 2 dates I have available that second week after the New Year's break. But, we don't have to decide now, but those would be kind of the window which I'd hope to have another meeting. So, at some point I'll reach out. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.